Welcome to Beyond the Bubble podcast, featuring monthly talks and updates on Viking men's basketball, where they're at and what they're up to.
We're back here with Beyond the Bubble podcast and episode 4. For this podcast, we're going to have two guests. We might split it into two. I'm not sure how we're going to do this, Mark. But right now we have Mark Potts joining us. Mark is the Director of Sports Information and Assistant Athletic Director at Valley City State University. And a lot of people know Mark. Know you, Mark. I should be saying this to you in person. Because he is a man of all trades, does all kinds of stuff, and is, I correct me if I'm wrong, but if there's a sporting event, 98% of a chance that you're there running things, or you are in the distant area directing.
Yeah, that's probably a fair assessment of all our home events.
Right.
I know when I first started here, 10 years ago. I've been here 10 years now. Crazy how fast it goes, but I was a one-man shop in the sports information department. So every home event I had to be at, in charge of stats, any type of publicity, promotion, photos, videos, post-game recaps, websites. And then over the years, we've added some help. I've had some student workers that have been good over the years, and now we have Carrie Bodine on as assistant sports information. And so she's able to take some games on her own when we have softball, baseball conflicts, or if there's just a random Tuesday night basketball game that we know is going to be a 50-point blowout. One of us can take it, one or the other one can have the other night off. But yeah, for the most part, 90-some% of the home events, I'm there and I'm running it.
Yeah. I coming here as a coach, I was an assistant coach before I became a head coach here. And coming here, I always took things for granted. The best way to describe it when I came here, coming from a NCAA Division II, and I don't know if that's better or worse or whatever it might be. It's just when I was at my previous spot, a lot of those things behind the scenes were just taken care of. Like I didn't have to worry about anything. And I remember meeting with you a week before our first home game or something, and telling me oh, what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about that? And I'm like, I don't know. And you have been a lifesaver in regards to that, because I was just like, well, this is all the stuff that I never thought of being, an assistant coach, and I actually am involved in the everyday operations of how to run a basketball game.
Sure.
Who's doing the film, who's doing the streaming, who's doing all of these things. And you have been a godsend in regards to that, and I want to make sure I get that on the podcast here for you. But I want to let you talk a little bit, and let's just use basketball in general here. How much work actually goes into just running a college basketball game?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a bit. Just to go back a little bit, what you talked about, you've been here, 7, 8 years now?
Yeah, you had to put up with me for that long.
Yeah, and obviously I was still young and learning 3-4 years into the job at that point, and so I've grown a lot over that time, and I think we've done a good job of figuring out what coach should handle, what we should handle over the years, and that's been good. Every sport's a little bit different in that regard. But yeah, as far as running a basketball game, it's quite a bit. I mean, biggest thing is you need a good group of workers, right? It takes 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 workers just to run, your table, your stats, and your live video stream. If you want to do a video board person, then you're talking 9. So you need a crew of at least 8 to 9 people just to physically run the game. That's not counting, gate workers, concessions workers, kind of all that ancillary stuff that the fans would notice. Just to run the physical game, we need 8 to 9 good workers. And that's a challenge sometimes. We rely heavily on student workers to keep our costs down. So it's a matter of finding the right student workers and then getting them trained in, putting in that time ahead of time to make sure they know what they're doing. They're comfortable running the shot clock, learning all the rules that change every 2 years based on the whims of you coaches, apparently. So
I don't do that.
No. But yeah, that's a challenge. Making sure the officials are lined up. We have a good conference scheduler that takes care of getting those, but we have to confirm that they're going to be here. Deb Fearum, our office manager, she's really great about that, making sure officials here are going to get paid, has checks for them. And then she also kind of in charge of the gate. We have some coaches generally that take care of game management, concessions. This year was a bit of a challenge for me because with my role as assistant athletic director, I took on a much larger role in stuff outside of the table crew and stats. I had my hand in concessions and gate working a little bit and officials and all that type of stuff. So really it's a process, that's for sure.
Yeah, I get stressed just thinking about how to coach the game.
What stresses me is thinking about, is our halftime performance going to show up?
Yeah.
Do they have everything they need? Is that room open in the back? Meanwhile, I'm trying to make sure, okay, this game is running smooth, and, we got a new person on shot clock tonight. How's that going to go? I'm not sure, that. So that's what stresses me out.
Yeah, let's go into that. What do you think is the toughest thing, when you're scheduling a worker? You want to make sure you put your best people in the right spots, right?
Yeah.
What do you think is the hardest thing for running a scores table at a basketball? Where do you want to put your best worker? What I should say.
Sure, yeah, they're all different. They all take the right kind of person. On PA, you need someone that's confident.
Yeah,
I
didn't even think about PA.
Yeah, not willing to be willing to be themselves and behind a mic, and try to step out there a little bit and get the crowd engaged and have some fun with it. On the scorebook, that's where I think you maybe need also a confident person, but also meticulous, right? Because they need to track. They are the official score, so every foul they need to write down. They need to make sure the running score is correct. So you need someone that's confident, but also meticulous, pays attention to detail, not afraid to call over the officials if there's a question about something and they need to have a discussion, because technically they are a fourth official at that
I usually
game.
have no problem with calling over officials, but
right.
I think they have a problem coming over and talking to me at times. But
your scoreboard worker, they track points, fouls up on the scoreboard for the public to see. Though that person doesn't necessarily affect the game, because the scorebook is the official score fouls, but they can create a lot of havoc if they're wrong on something. So you need something there that pays attention to the game. They don't miss a basket, they don't miss a foul. They make sure all that stuff on the board is correct, so fans know exactly what's going on, and they're not yelling, "Hey, you missed a basket," things like that. Game clock and shot clock. I always feel like those are probably two of the toughest, where they need to know the game. And they need to pay attention, right? Because they need to watch for every time there's a stoppage in play. Shot clock, I feel like, is really tough because they get a lot of judgment calls throughout the game.
Yeah.
Did that hit the rim? Was that actually a change of possession? That type of stuff. Do I need to reset it here? Is it a reset to 20? Is it a reset to 30? That type of stuff. So
I don't, the shot clock thing, I don't think people, at least I know I didn't at first have an appreciation for actually how meticulous, like you were saying, meticulous you have to be during running that. Especially with the rules changes that we've had in the last 2 years of how it goes to 20 at this and 20 at that, or it's a complete reset.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot more complicated. I have a cheat sheet printed out, every game for our workers. They're okay, these are the basic rules. You look in the rule book and there's several more of them, but these are the ones that you're going to encounter the most. And yeah, you're right. It used to be a simple full reset. Yeah. Every time it hit the rim, every change of possession. Every time there's a foul. Now it's changed. If it's in the front court or the back court, you reset to 20 or 30, depending on that. Offensive rebound now is a 20. Defensive rebound's 30. Just all those things.
I think you know more than I do, Mark.
Well, it is.
I can't keep up with that right now. Just listening to you, I'm how, and then we're asking 18 to 20-year-olds running that, right?
Yeah, right.
Most of the time.
And we were lucky, we've been lucky the last 2 years. Jason Eisinger,
Okay.
a work study student worker for us, he was really good at that job and appreciated him.
I thought we were one of the best in the conference this year when I'm biased obviously because
Right.
I'm at home. And people always say, well, obviously they did it for you or whatever. They reset that at that time. And I'm like, no, the amount of mistakes that you do get when you're out on the road and are different places, you're just like, okay, this is insane.
Yeah.
This needs to be better.
Sure. Well, it's good to hear. Good to hear we're on top of our game, I guess, essentially. But
what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give a shout out to Jacob, Jason. I'm sorry, Jason, and say, hey, good job, man. Hopefully, I know. Did he graduate?
He did. Yeah. So we're looking.
So we have to train.
Yeah. I mean, we have some other people that have stepped in, but we do have quite a bit of turnover of reliable student workers who graduated. So, and this year we relied a little more on some of our assistant coaches to fill in some of those roles as part of their 25% of their contract is helping out with some of that game stuff as well.
Well, we can talk about that. Not everybody knows that these assistant coaches or even our head coaches have other duties in,
Yeah.
in regards to their contracts. And,
Yeah, I mean, we're a small school.
right? And to show that everybody, like, you might have an assistant football coach or an assistant volleyball coach running a shot clock or taking stats or any of those types of things. That's not their profession or that's not what they're experts in.
Right.
And everybody, when you're a fan of basketball, when you're sitting there yelling at from a fan's perspective to get it right?
Yeah.
Take a breath. And I've learned to do that.
I would agree, yeah. We've had some visiting head coaches that, man, they make some comments to our table crew that you just kind of shake your head at, like, these are students that are doing this for, $10-12 an hour. Like, we're not professionals, right? We're doing our best. We have them trained. People make mistakes. Watch college basketball on TV. You see mistakes all the time, and those are guys at the top of their game. So,
right.
like I said, I think we do a good job, but it's just, it's a bit of a reality check. Like, oh yeah, these are students doing this, and this is an assistant football coach that obviously football is their number one sport in their life, but we're asking them to step in and help out with basketball. So,
yeah, I just wanted to ask that question because I think I am slowly getting a slow appreciation for the behind the scenes stuff that goes into college athletics. When I was young and, even playing college basketball, I was kind of like, this is just do it.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, it takes a lot of manpower just to run an event.
Yeah.
A event, not a whole season. I'm talking about an event. I mean, you're talking about 8 to 9 people already just in your list. And I know you're probably missing somebody just because.
Yeah. I have last year, I think we had 14 or 15 students on our list that, but hey, they're also students where they're going to leave for the weekend. They have lives outside of this, right? So we got to make plans when they're gone. And
we see it around the country right now too, of just hiring people. Like I think every retail store that I go to, every restaurant that I go to, what does it say in the front door right now?
Yeah, now hiring.
Now hiring, right? I think finding reliable people in regards to, in your profession is got to be extremely difficult.
And we've been good. For the most part, the students that we get are student athletes from other sports. And so you're talking people that are used to juggling a lot of things, right? And they are committed to athletics, essentially, right? They have an interest in athletics. So those are the type of people that I personally look for as student athletes from other sports, just because obviously they know other sports and they know the lifestyle of it.
I think you did a great job. When I look over at the scores table, it's always staff. So, hey, you've already completed a goal, right?
Even on a Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, we find a way to get it staffed, Coach.
Yeah, and that's partly, and that's a tough thing with coaching too, is just scheduling is like, when can we have a game? When can we not have a game? And we try our hardest to work with you and be like, well, can we staff this? Can we not staff this? And that's another thing that people really don't understand when, like, they always ask for the schedule. And they're like, well, why are you playing them at that time? Or why are you doing this? And, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about fans outside. And I'm like, well, we can't have a home game then. Like, we just can't do it. Like, there's nobody on campus, like, to work or do those things. And
we have some games this year, right, where we've talked about, I think it's over Christmas break, where we're going to have a tough time staffing those games, but we're already talking about plans, how we can get that covered.
Yeah, isn't it funny? It's a year ahead of time, and we're already talking about those things. Well, it's 6 months now, but we've talked about it in the past, way like 7 months.
Yeah.
And, like, I think about that, and, then you actually get to the day, and you're playing the game. And you go, I remember when I scheduled this, and I remember how many conversations we've had about this game. And, just the amount of work that goes into running an event. And I said it earlier, a event. I'm not talking about a whole season, just one. It's tremendous.
Yeah.
And the amount of work that goes into those things. And I think that's awesome. I mean, that's part of the process, and that makes winning even sweeter.
And the reality of, some of those dates, those Thanksgiving weekend type games, Christmas break games, they're great games for family, friends, the players to attend, right? Because a lot of them are off work or they're on break.
That's when they want to be there.
But
right?
they're really tough games for us to staff. So we kind of got to juggle, okay, can we have this game? Can we actually make it work? Because this can be a good experience for the family and friends of the players. Obviously, we don't have a lot of students at those types of games, but so we got to weigh that as well when you schedule those games.
Right. So I'm going to throw another curveball at you here. What do you think is like the toughest sport to run? Is in terms of an event, like football is going to probably pop out real quick. I don't know what goes into a football game. I help when I can, but which sport do you think kind of takes the most energy from you to run?
Well, I'm really thankful there's only 5 home football games a year because those will drain. That's an all hands on deck situation, right? Just for example, right, we have you in men's basketball running the tailgate section, right? I think we had this year it was women's basketball doing a lot of the gate working, providing the students for that. Baseball would run concession stands. They would have the ball boys out on the field. They would have the chain gang as needed. And that's just our teams volunteering, right? And then we get into all the people we need working up in the booth. We always have something going on at halftime, so we got to coordinate that. Then we have, Century Club that likes to do events, 50-50 raffle, things like that, along with their tailgating, so that adds another level. But yeah, it's just a lot. A lot of work ahead of time. Football game days, I'm usually at the field 2 to 2.5 hours before the game, and then I'm usually the last one leaving, maybe an hour and a half after the game.
I remember seeing you paint the North Star logo onto the field this year.
Yeah, I don't know how that got started, but that's kind of been something we've just taken on and get it done.
It was done right, though. Like it wasn't it was a stencil, obviously, so you didn't screw it up or anything. But I have seen that happen where people have put that on the wrong yard line and stuff like that. But like that's what I'm trying to get at with you, Mark, is like, people don't understand that you did that. Like you would think, maybe like a facilities person did that or something. No, it was Mark.
Yeah, it was in conjunction with facilities, right? Yeah. That's a funny story, right? Our old athletic director, before you were here, Jack Denholm. Did Jack hire you?
Nate Stewart hired me.
Nate Stewart
So I think Jack was right before Nate. Am I correct by saying that?
Yeah, that was right. And, when we got that football turf, one of the things Jack wanted to do, we want to put our conference logo out there. The North Star was new, right? So it was... I don't know. I think Jack ordered the paint, myself and Keith, our facilities guy, and Jack. We all went out there and had the stencil, and we figured it out, and we got it done. And it's just kind of progressed. Every year since then, it's been either Keith Biggers, who used to be our old facilities guy, and myself would figure out how to get that painted. And then last year it was myself and Terry, our facilities guy. So it's something we just took care of,
Yeah, and see, people take that for granted.
It's we just don't have that endless staff, right? That you do at a higher institution. But yet we're also a little bit of a junior college. It's interesting, we've gone through some head coach searches here this summer and, talking to some junior candidates that work at junior college, you tell them, okay, as sports information director, this is what I'll take care of. I'll take care of your stats, all your game recaps, all that stuff. They just kind of look at you like, what? That's like half my job right now. You mean I can actually just coach? That type of stuff. But then you, coming from potential a Division II on down, you maybe have more staff that have taken care of more. And
I struggled with that.
Yeah, suddenly you're getting a few extra things to do that you never thought you'd have to do. Right. So it's just a matter where we're at.
Like, where I previously was, we had 2 basically full-time assistants, kind of, one's declared a half, but he was paid enough. And then obviously there was the full-time spot. So we were always constantly handling certain duties, and never was I ever approached to write a story about how the game went or any of those. Like, wasn't something that we did because our student or our SID, our information people had like 2 interns and 3 full-time people, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I get here and I'm like, so Mark, how many people do you have helping you? And everything is just me. I'm like, oh.
But we still haven't asked you to write a story.
Yeah, and that's where that's why, hey, I wanted to get you on here and just say thank you, because that stuff matters. Like being able to, look at your phone and find the social media content and say, oh, I want to click on the story and see how the game went or whatever because I missed it. The amount of recruits that read that stuff, it goes. And I know I send you, like we just released our recruiting class last week. I think it was last week.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And reading what I sent you, I go, ooh, I should have looked that over better. And then you release it, and I'm like, that flows. Good job. And
that's what we do.
Right?
Yeah.
And because I'm not an English guy. I'm not a writer. So, the amount of stuff that makes our brand look good, you do a tremendous amount in regards to that.
There's a lot of people that have their hands in that. Obviously, Carrie Bodine, my assistant, she has dedicated sports that, she's the main contact person, takes care of promotion for them. Mitchell Silkman now, he's taken on a lot as far as producing highlight videos for a lot of the teams.
It's huge.
It's great. Like, that's content that, videos are such a time-consuming project, right? So it's really easy for us to say, we don't have time for that, right? But when we have a guy like Mitchell on campus, like, that's the main part of his job is doing videos for campus. It adds a whole nother dimension to what we can do. And that's just things like that. If really changed over my 10 years here. Yeah. Like, the amount of stuff we have to do for social media, graphic design, video, like, it's just gone through the roof.
Right. The person that Mark is talking about is sitting behind the scenes right now. Mitchell is sitting back there, and Mitchell Silkman. Mitchell, what's your exact title again? Video production manager. You first year full time was this year, right? Or we just hired you?
Yeah, officially hired. Because I did a 10th year.
Okay.
Now officially hired as of like the week after graduation.
Yeah, and we're thankful.
Very much so.
Because first of all, this is funny too, because Mitchell, he didn't yell at me, but he gave me a stern little thing at our team camp like a couple weeks ago. He's like, why didn't you, put a streaming request in for this, or like a filming request? And I'm like, didn't even think about it because we've never done something like that before.
Sure. Yep.
And he comes up to me, he says, oh, we should be here filming this. You got a lot of teams on campus and like your 3-on-3 tournaments and all that stuff. And I said, dude, you're right. I should have you in here like every 2 weeks at least when we have something going on so we can put this on social media or send it to Mark and get it out there. And thank you for doing that, Mitchell, because trust me, there's never going to be a tournament or anything that I run without a drone flying over it again. So
we got to find that balance, right? Because we're still not Duke or North Carolina where they have a couple social media managers per team, essentially. So, yeah, it's crazy. But, it certainly adds another level and helps us, be better than the competition in our conference in a lot of areas. I feel like we've really done a good job of, pushing the rest of the conference to keep up with us on some of the social media and video stuff that we've done.
Well, we had our own app for a while there. Now I know we switched platforms in regards to our website again, which looks great. And that app was really cool because I could just click on it and scroll to this and all that stuff. I know it doesn't exist anymore, but that was something I don't remember other conference teams doing.
Right.
And we gotta stay ahead of the curve here. And I like to call it urgency to progress, because I just when you sit there and you just wait for things to happen, they don't.
Yeah.
And the more that we just keep on pushing it and say, okay, we reached this goal, let's go on to the next one. I think us as an athletics department and us as a university need to continue that, because if you get stuck in the mud, you get left behind pretty quickly. And that's just the nature of athletics and honestly higher education.
Yeah, right. I mean, jobs constantly evolve. Right. Especially in my role, I feel like I can't speak for other jobs, but I know how much mine has changed in the 10 years I've been here and the 10 years before me, right?
You're now assistant athletic director.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I mean, the amount of progress, I'm like, yeah, Mark, you're doing good, buddy.
But even just like the way sports information has changed over the years, it used to be they would have to be at the games, take the stats, write the stories, get it out to the press. That was the basic duties, right? But with the advancement of social media, live video streaming, all that stuff has just fallen onto the backs of sports information departments across the country. And most of them have run with it and done a good job, but it's just crazy how the job has evolved. Now we're talking about Chat GPT and these AI softwares that can write stories for you.
Oh, what is that?
It's just, essentially artificial intelligence that can write a press release. You give it the basic details and it'll write a press release for you.
Really?
And so departments across the country are having these conversations. Do we do this? Is it ethical? Will it save us time? Is it actually going to be good? That type of stuff.
So they have computers, or I don't know what would you call AI? I mean, I guess we just call it AI. So the game happens, and then they somehow talk to a computer and then the computer puts it out, or how does that go?
So I've tested it with like sending a box score, right? And it struggles, right?
Okay.
It can't read the data correctly. But there's a way where you could type in a couple sentences, a couple paragraphs, and then it can fill out the rest of the information. I personally don't like it. It's kind of fluffy,
Yeah.
kind of the feel good, I don't know, cliche type sentences and stories. But I definitely see where there are a lot of people that are going to start using it.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. AI writing basketball stories.
It's crazy to think about, isn't it? But
Well, can the computer not like me? You know what I'm saying? Like,
maybe if you get too technicals, it'll have to put
Well,
something
that's
in
what I'm
about
saying,
Montgomery
like-
got ejected, right?
yeah, like, so is it going to express a little opinion? Like, and I know they say AI it's not a human being in terms of how it thinks and all that stuff. It thinks is what its logarithms or whatever you call them are telling it to. But that, like, when you take the human element out of that, like, will I notice the difference is what I'm kind of trying to get to.
Yeah,
And that's weird.
yeah.
So let's just say we did go to something like that. So I would tell like you asked me for my quotes of the game or something. So I'd have to go like give you the quote and you plug that in. Is that how that would work?
Yeah, I suppose. You'd put in the date, the score, the location, maybe your high scorers, high rebounders, maybe a quote, maybe any other little information, and it'll spit
It
you out a
just
story.
spits it out.
At that point, once you're having to put all that information in, if
Yeah.
it can't read it from a box score, just do it yourself.
Yeah,
right?
I was
That's
just
how
gonna
feel.
say.
But there are sports information departments where they have 22 to 26 sports, and they're a one-man shop or a two-person
Yeah.
shop.
Yeah.
And so they got to look for ways to still give their teams coverage, but save their lives essentially, because that work-life balance that's always a struggle.
Oh, it's huge, man. And I know you battle with that. Especially when September comes around.
Yeah.
Late August, September. Well, actually, even before that, because volleyball probably has a game before that, doesn't it? Before the kids actually get here.
Oh no, they usually don't play till late August.
Is it late
but,
August?
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually our first home games for volleyball are in September.
Yeah, and scrimmage-wise, you kind of use that as like a trial run, don't you?
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure. Train some new workers in, test all our software, that stuff.
So again, it kind of does start for you.
Yeah, I mean, first week in August, football and volleyball essentially are reporting,
Mm-hmm.
right? So then we start doing the headshots, the media day stuff, and from there on out, we're rolling.
Yeah.
Next 6 months are a blur.
Yeah. And so
Hey, I got declined for my deer tag this year, though, so I don't need to worry about having to go out and hunt in November and when that stuff when we're
So
trying to have our
you-
last football game.
So how many years in a row did you have one?
Oh, it's about once every 4 years I get drawn now.
Really?
Yeah, it's hit or miss now.
That low, huh?
Yeah, just not enough tags to go around for the area.
Yeah, I grew up deer hunting, and in Minnesota, we never,
It's crazy, right?
never had to worry.
Yeah,
And we just
just go
grabbed the
buy one
gun.
over the counter. Right?
Yeah, and now they're starting to charge a little bit, pretty penny for it. But never had an issue getting a deer tag. I think my brother this year shot a buck and 2 does. He used the family tags. Basically. So my dad bought one, but he didn't shoot anything. So my brother goes and uses it. Or type something like that. I don't know if that's illegal.
Maybe you want to rewind that.
Yeah.
tape.
So
Party hunting in North Dakota is not legal.
That's not.
I don't know about Minnesota.
Okay.
Though. Yeah.
Well, I think we're in North Dakota, and so if anybody from Minnesota is listening to this, I am extremely sorry. Chase, my brother, sorry, bud. I'll bail you out. But it's we never had to worry about that. But you deer hunt every year or try to.
Yeah, right. I mean, sports and outdoors have been my life,
Yeah.
right? So fall has always been a busy time of watching football, and doing some hunting, that type
Mm-hmm.
of stuff. Now, the way my job has progressed, the fall is our busiest time of the year,
Yeah.
so there's just not enough time anymore for some of that stuff. But still get out for some pheasant hunting, deer hunting, obviously, and some duck hunting every year.
Yeah. Now I'm jealous. That's why I'm talking about it, because I can't deer hunting. I grew up doing it, then I got in college basketball.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't allow
Yep.
you to do it right, at
No,
least. You could
exactly.
maybe go out for a day that you somehow don't have a basketball activity. But yeah, not going to let you do it the right way.
My son is 9 now, and he's starting to get into more of that, wanting to do some hunting. He could take hunter safety and, start doing a lot of that. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to fit this into our lives where,
Could you do bow? Because bow is usually longer, right?
Deer bow is earlier. Yep, it goes longer.
It's-
It's late August through
So that could be
first week in
something, right?
January. Yep, he's shown interest in that as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just starting to look at it as like, well, those lazy Sunday afternoons now are going to be spent with my
But
son.
you
in the
need
field.
those, don't you?
You do, but there's different ways to rejuvenate yourself, right?
Yeah.
It's maybe not just sitting on the couch watching football. Maybe it's getting out, going down to the
I-
farm and doing
I
a
know
walk.
your wife, and she's not going to allow you to miss those Viking games. She's not going to do. She's not going to let you do it, man.
Well, when basketball coaches schedule Sunday afternoon games, we miss them anyway. So,
Did I do that?
oh
this
yeah,
year?
you've done it before.
No, I know. I know I've done it before. I'm trying to think if I did it this year. I don't.
No, you still haven't sent me your schedules, so
Well, honestly, I'm actually talking to somebody right now that I'm trying to get scheduled. That would be a pretty fun place to play.
Okay.
And if I can get it done, then I'll get it to you. But I think there is a Sunday that I do have on there, and I'm sorry. So I'm trying to apologize ahead of time.
all right.
And it might be opening weekend because I know I can't say who we're playing yet until we release it and do those things. But I think we play Thursday, Friday of opening weekend. And then I think we play Sunday because there's a football game on Saturday. And so it's going to be a busy week. So late October. But for all you fans out there, just get some hotels and come to Valley City Thursday. I think it would be October 26th through the 30th if you just want to watch a bunch of sports. Because I think volleyball might be in town too. I think we're all in town and we're all three play. So I apologize to you.
We'll talk about this off camera, Ryan. Give you my true feelings about what you just did.
I know, and I'm feeling really bad about it already. But so I got to get off this topic because I think Mark might jump off this podcast really soon. But so looking at what's coming up. So right now you're kind of. It's not dead time for you. I know you're busy still right now and doing other things. But what during the summer, what do you try to do to get ready for this upcoming season?
Yeah, a lot of it is catching up from the previous year, right? So summer is generally the time where we update record books after each season, and then we go through our website, update every player's bio for that year, putting in stats, awards, that type of stuff. So we have a historical record of what they did. Those are the two main things we try to accomplish in the summer, and then, we start prepping, right? We start thinking about social media campaigns, especially, we have the Ag Bowl football game. That's our
That
first.
comes quick.
Yeah, it's our first event of the year, August 24th. So we're 2 months out, and we're at the point where we need to start promoting that. So really, after July 4th, we're going to be hitting the ground running hard, trying to get that promoted. We're hosting a volleyball tournament, the North Star Frontier Crossover. That's going to be September 8th to 9th. So that'll be 2 full days of volleyball that we got to start promoting. So that's a lot of it. And then once athletes get back, we're talking about. Football, volleyball coming in, doing their headshots, doing their media days.
Pictures, man.
Yeah, and then how can we utilize those pictures and videos in our social media stuff for the next 2 months, getting all that stuff prepared and ready to go.
That's really expanding now. Like the action shots, the stuff that, that looks cool on social media. What I've noticed is like certain people are starting to get really creative with that stuff. Like they'll have you go into a white room, right, and do a bunch of cool things with smoke and all those types of things, and that's a big thing. And I'm like thinking about you and your job and all. Like that takes a lot of work.
Yeah, it's tough to keep up with the Joneses, right?
Right.
Because that's what you see on social media is these professionals, these D1 athletes, these D1 programs, and the reality is they have dedicated people towards that just for that team. And, we can't replicate it, but, gosh, we got to do our best, right?
Right, and they keep pushing the bar farther to where – and they should. I mean, I'm not saying they shouldn't, but they have the people to keep up with that stuff. Like, when you have a small school like ours, like, a certain student-athlete might be wondering, why don't we do this stuff?
Right.
And they just don't understand with the amount of manpower that actually goes into those things. And some of these kids won't understand that. If they get into college athletics, they'll understand it like 5 years from now. But certain ones will be like 35, 40 years old and be like, oh, that's why.
Yeah. We want to provide our student athletes with a great experience while they're here, right? So we do what we can, and we've really pushed ourselves and expanded that type of stuff over the last 5 years. But
Oh,
at a certain point, there's a limit to what we can do with what we have.
Well, in my time here, it's expanded. Like, over the last 3 years, I think you started doing those action shots. Like, we get all together, get the jerseys on and all that stuff. You still can't get me to do it. Like, I'm not going to sit out there
I've
with
been taking a new headshot in like 6 years, Ryan.
Well, I want to look young, right? Why would I do that? I think I've changed a lot since if you took a headshot of me when I was first here compared to what I look now, it's a big difference.
Oh, you just see the wisdom in your face now, right?
Yeah, more the wrinkles and no hair. But, the amount of stuff that you guys have done, to help our student athletes in regards to, they really like having those pictures.
Yeah.
They do. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong or anything like that, but that's like their toy. Like they immediately are going to this really quickly and making sure that everybody's, that gets on their profile real quick. And that's good. That's good. I mean, sometimes I wish I could look back at what I looked like when I was playing and all those things.
Probably shake your head a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
We had the baggy shorts. We were the Fab Five, changed basketball there for a while where you had baggy shorts that were really long and then
Never saw your knees.
Yeah, you never saw your knees and you had ankle socks.
Yeah.
And nowadays you can't find shorts short enough. Like I'm like, okay. I remember one of our players, I gave him a size medium shorts or anything, he rolled it up. And I'm like, man, I thought those were short already when I gave them to you, and he's got them rolled up 3 times. And
Just
I was like,
fads change. It's crazy.
right? And I don't know, you've probably seen that a lot, right?
Yeah, I mean, generally, even just looking back at, when we induct people into the Hall of Fame, right? We do some research to put together a presentation about them. So you see some of these old pictures, and sometimes we find some video clips, and it's interesting to see how, athletics, uniform, style, play have all evolved over the years.
Let's go, like, is there a certain sport that you see fads change like that more often than the other?
That's a good question. I mean, baseball has been pretty steady in the type of uniform. I feel like, there you see the differences in pant height, essentially, or are they rolled up? Are they stirrups? Are they baggy pants that hang down? That type of stuff. I'd say basketball is probably the easiest to pick up, just because, there's so many variations of, are guys going to wear sleeves under the uniforms? How are they going to be true tanks? Are they going to be out to the, just on the shoulder on the uniform? Obviously the short shorts, long shorts, right? The type of socks, all that type of stuff.
Sometimes I don't know how to feel about that, because I do like, change. Like I do like seeing things progress in regards to those things, but I also don't like to be viewed as that sport that is like a prima donna sport,
Yeah.
I don't think we are or anything like that. It's just people view it like that when everything changes like that all the time.
I feel like a lot of that, was it Oregon that started
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Oregon football with Nike, their contract, new uniforms every game, right? So now you get these people that, like, they want to see the flashy uniforms. They want to see how many different combinations you can make with your uniforms. And so part of it's a bit of a game for some of the coaches and the players that really are passionate and enjoy that stuff to, pick their uniform combination for that week, that type of stuff.
Well, I've seen, like, Division II start doing uniform reveal of like that week of what we're wearing.
Yep.
Like that's their Twitter. Like,
and I know our football program has done that as well, because that's a thing people care about.
Yeah, wearing the whites this week.
Yep.
And come out and see the all whites or whatever it might be, or the all black, and I'm like, and people do attract to that.
Yeah. And whether they actually care about the uniform or if it's just another way to promote your program on social media, something interesting, that's essentially what it is, a behind the scenes look at your program.
And recruits really get into it.
Yeah.
Like when you're a football recruit, you always see them put on the jersey or something like that. But like basketball is getting to the point now where you have to take an action shot. I think we had a recruit on campus this year. It was in April, or maybe May. It's all a blur to me now. But he had to put on the full jersey, and then he wanted to be on the center logo and dribbling and taking action shots. Okay. And I was like, okay. Yeah. There's nothing I can say to it, right? No. I'm like, why would you do that? And I'm like, okay, just send the kid home and say he's not coming to Valley City State, right? But that, like, he's like, to keep up with the Joneses, like you said, we have to do stuff like that.
And it's, you want to make it a cool experience
Yeah.
for the student athletes, right? So that's a big part of what we do.
Well, then I got into it a little bit. Like, I'm like, this kid seems invested.
Yeah.
Like, he wants to put on the jersey, and I think that's okay. There's a balance to everything, right? And I thought, yeah, let's do stuff like this. That's okay. And
So the real question, did it work? Did he sign?
he didn't.
Okay.
Reason being is we took, how would I say this? We filled our recruiting class right when he was making a decision.
Okay.
And, I kind of told him, when we were going through the process was, hey, this could happen, that, we have another offer out. And if I'm going to take the kids that want to be at VCSU right away. And one guy pulled the trigger and weren't able to get him. I wasn't going to take two at that position. So, but that's recruiting.
Yeah.
That's recruiting. You want to take the guys that want to be here and want to be here now and go from there. So
It's, you talk about how jobs have evolved or how, people have different roles within a department. It's been eye-opening for me this past year as assistant athletic director to hear from some of our coaches and some of the stuff they have to worry about. When we brought all the coaches in and they basically gave a 30-minute report on their program, scholarships, athletes, that type of stuff. A lot of that was like, okay, this is eye-opening to me. Now I kind of understand a little bit more what the coaches, where they're coming from, what they're dealing with.
Right. And that's got to be hard on you, too, as an assistant athletic director or like people that are even higher than you in administration. When you have each individual sport that has certain characteristics that are not like comparable to the other.
Yeah.
Like, basketball, what you're able to offer a kid in regards to basketball might be totally different than football, because football is a big numbers game. Like, so an offer in a basketball, it's more of an intimate sport. There's 5 on the floor compared to how many are, on a football team,
Right.
And those things, you might understand it if you've been in coaching for a while. But if I was just getting into coaching, like I wouldn't, and I was just a clean slate and all I knew was basketball, I would never know what a football athlete gets offered to be a scholarship player.
Sure.
I would never know that. Or like what the recruiting, situations are. How do you recruit a basketball player compared to a football player? That would be totally, that it's totally different in certain ways.
Yeah, I mean, you had a big class this year, obviously.
Yeah, I
with
had
all
a football recruiting class,
Yeah,
basically.
with all the seniors, COVID graduates you had. But, usually you're talking, maybe 4, 5, 6 potentially coming in, where football's looking to bring in 40 to 45 every year, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a whole totally different ball game.
And the calendar, just the recruiting calendar of what that might entail. Like, I might spend a whole year or maybe even a year and a half on one recruit. Like, if I really truly believe in that recruit and want to make sure that I take a lot of time on it, they might do that on like 20 kids. Like, I do it on one, and I really try to have an intimate, like, hey, this is, I really want to have a personal relationship with you, and all that stuff. I would find that hard to do at a 20.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like, it's just different. It's just, and I still might not get that kid. Like, it just takes a Division I to walk in and be like, hey, we're thinking of having you as a walk-on or giving you a scholarship. And he's gone. Like, that's just the way it is.
It's got to be a totally different approach, too, right? Because a lot of those guys, you're looking for impact guys. They're going to play right away, or going to develop, sit a year and then play. Football's a little different, where at our level, you might get 6, 7 true freshmen that are going to contribute meaningfully that first year. But the bulk of them need to get bigger, right?
Yeah.
Get stronger before they're ready for college football. So a lot of it, you got to be looking at like, okay, does this kid really want to be here? Is he a future program kid that is willing to put in the work and stay here? So yeah, it's definitely got to be a totally different approach.
And you when you were going through those listening sessions and stuff, probably like the transfer portal that might have popped up on a couple programs at least, and how that's affecting at every level. Like, let's say, you're talking about those freshmen that come in at a football program, keeping all of them is got to be extremely tough.
Yeah, the reality is you're not, right?
No.
It's impossible, right?
Yep.
Part of that is going from high school athletics to college athletics. There's a lot more time commitment, hard work, and some people just realize it's not for them. And then some people, I'm not happy away from home. It's fine, right? We get that. There's going to be turnover regardless. We understand that.
Yeah, I would love to sit down, and I don't know if anybody has this information, but just track, from a freshman year, redshirt freshman year as a football or even basketball or whatever, to see if they actually fill the 5 years and see what that number is now.
Yeah.
And compared to where it was just 5 years ago before COVID.
Yeah, how it's changed over the last few years.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's changed how I recruit. Talking with my peers, it's changed how they recruit. I mean, I have a really good coaching buddy that, for a while there, he was, just recruiting really high-end NAIA players out of schools.
Okay.
They've already declared they're going to transfer, right?
Yeah.
He's not one of those guys that just calls a roster and says, I'm going to take your players. And that's not what I'm saying. But, he would find out if, these high-end NAIA players were transferring or have declared that they're transferring already. And then he would fill his class with those just to stay relevant, in how he's winning. He since has changed a little bit, but, just to think about that 10 years ago, like when I was at Bemidji State, and how we would have viewed that at that time. Now it's completely acceptable, and that's okay.
Yeah, and it changes the culture of your program, right? What you're trying to accomplish with that a little bit. When you have to assimilate, 6, 7, 8 new faces in every year, you either need a strong culture to start, or you got to be flexible with your culture based on the group of guys, I suppose, right?
Yeah, it's you can keep certain things like your style of play. I don't know if you can do certain styles of play over and over again, like the old days of like we're going to recruit and redshirt freshmen and bring them all the way through, and then they're going to be really like the best defensive team on year 4, because they've been in the system so long.
Right.
So I don't know if those things exist anymore. I think they do here and there, but that's what everybody was trying to be 10 years ago. I think now, and I told my assistant coach this, he's like, you're more of a general manager now than anything.
Yeah.
Like we're trying to sign 1-year contracts with every player that's out there that we feel is good enough to play at our level. And then we're trying to evaluate after that. I mean, I want to keep all of my players, and I think we did a good job of that in the last 3 years, is because that's why we had such a big graduation class, is because those guys decided to either use their COVID years or, stay at VCSU. And so that really kind of set this into motion of what our new recruiting class would be. We had to recruit a lot of ready now guys. So.
And it's important, there are a lot of guys, college athletes that want to go to the same place and be there for 4 or 5 years, right? We're not lumping them all together, right? But the transfer portal has it's exploded, where it's given student athletes that opportunity, if you're not happy in your situation, to go find something else that fits you better.
All right.
And maybe it's gone bigger than they envisioned when they put it in there. But there are the guys that, guys and women, right, that they come here and they want to be here for 4 or 5 years. And, those are just great ambassadors for your university and your
huge
program. Like, they're great.
Yeah, I mean, we had some this year that were transfers, though, too. But they like a Hunter Sand.
Yeah.
He came here right off the bat, and he was here with 5 years, basically. And trust me, he could have graduated 2 years ago. And he's going to be a great ambassador from years to come, probably even after, he'll probably be a better ambassador than I ever could be, just because he's an alum, and he's going to be around the area for pretty much his whole life. I mean, that's who he is.
I was just going through some old football rosters, doing some website upkeep, and guys like Jalen Pfeiffer and Jordan Hamry, right? I think they graduated 2 years ago, but they were here for 6 seasons the way things went.
Yeah.
And those are guys that they're invested in that program, in the university, and they're going to be great. They're great alumni, obviously, and going down the road, they're going to continue to be great supporters.
Right. Well, hey, man, we're kind of running out of time, but I really appreciate you sitting down. We're going to do this again.
Okay.
I just the more we do this, like you come on more, the more interesting things that we can say and can pound off of our previous conversation. And
so we can get in season and I can start critiquing the job you're doing as a coach.
yeah,
Is that okay?
Isn't that what everybody does?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
we just don't say it on camera. So
yeah, when my dad always told me the easiest place to coach from is the bleachers.
Yep, exactly.
And that's good. And I mean, like, well, you've always heard my theory about coaching, right? In terms of to find out if you're a really good coach. Do you ever remember me telling you?
I don't know this one.
I sometimes I feel like if you really truly want to know how good of a coach you are, both coaches should be able to sit in the bleachers, have some popcorn, and watch the game and not be on the bench and just let it go.
Right.
And see how good of a job you actually did.
Prepare your team ahead of time.
Right.
They shouldn't need you in game.
Right?
I like that.
See how much character's on the floor, see how much, and that would tell you a true tale of how good of a coach you really are. Now, I think it would be a dumpster fire for a little bit there. But just to see how well you've taught the game and just kind of go from there. But we can get into that stuff at another time.
No, I like that philosophy. I equate it to some of my most relaxing times at a game are like the second half of a basketball doubleheader when the table crew has been just killing it for the first, 3 halves of games. Just got 1 half left. It's a blowout. It's like, we can relax. We can breathe. Like, they're good. Like, this is awesome.
Right. As long as we're winning by a lot.
Yeah, right. In a close game, you get a little nervous, right? Because then you get game clock situations that, can bring the spotlight down real quick on your workers.
I'm still nervous. Every time they were up by 22 or 23 or something like that, I look up at the clock and it says 9 minutes left. I'm like, oh, okay, how can we get out of here? And doing those things. But I had a good team this last couple of years that usually put those things away.
Sure.
So.
Yep. No, it's been good. Appreciate you having me on.
Hey, thanks for coming on, man.
All right.
We'll talk to you later.
Who are they really serving? I want big smoke, wolfing on the net, but up in person they got strep throat. Here to make a lot of threats, but they don't never step though. Yeah, I'm a believer, by my dollars feel like Creflo. They gon' say that I